There was silence at first. The sentence Karoline Leavitt had said about Trump hung in the air. Millions of viewers on CNN's live broadcast held their breath. The color drained from Anderson Cooper's face, his eyes widened, and he pretended not to hear the voice in his earpiece. Producers were signaling in panic. And then, something unprecedented in television history happened. Anderson Cooper fled from the studio during a live broadcast. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. Just 45 minutes before the incident, in the back rooms of CNN's New York studio, Anderson Cooper was adjusting his gray suit with a hot cup of coffee in hand, preparing for the day's final live broadcast. In his 25-year career, he had never feared any guest. He had interviewed presidents, dictators, war criminals, storms, terrorist attacks, social crises. Cooper had overcome them all. Tonight we're hosting Karoline Leavitt, the Trump administration's press secretary, said producer Sarah Jenkins, showing Cooper the day's agenda. The usual questions: immigration policy, economy, recent statements. But I've also added this document. Cooper looked at the file handed to him. Trump's health report. Where did you find this? Jenkins smiled. I have sources. It's not yet verified, but from a reliable place. You can use it. Cooper examined the file, his eyebrows rising. Are you sure? This is quite controversial. We need the ratings, Andy, said Jenkins. If you corner Trump's spokesperson, the internet will explode. Don't forget, Leavitt is only 27 years old, Trump's puppet. She doesn't have much experience. Cooper nodded in agreement. His position at CNN had been shaky lately. Rating drops, management changes, competition. Perhaps Jenkins was right. Perhaps it was time to create a big moment. He entered the studio with confidence. The red lights on the cameras blinked. Good evening. Welcome to CNN's Anderson Cooper 360. Tonight's guest is White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt. The camera angle widened, and Leavitt appeared at the other end of the studio. In her blue suit with blonde hair falling to her shoulders, the young woman displayed a professional image with the small cross necklace around her neck. There was a slight smile on her face, but her eyes had a sharpness that Cooper didn't notice. Thanks. Anderson, it's nice to be here, said Leavitt, her voice calm but confident. The first questions went routinely. Immigration policy, economic indicators, Trump's recent statements. Cooper noticed that Leavitt answered each question more fluently than expected. She didn't seem inexperienced. Each of her answers contained data, strengthening her arguments. By quoting from CNN's own broadcasts, Cooper became a bit tense. Jenkins' voice came through his earpiece. Move to the health report, now. Cooper cleared his throat. Ms. Leavitt, I have an interesting document here. He arranged the papers. A report about President Trump's health condition. Although it's not yet verified, we got it from reliable sources. The atmosphere in the studio suddenly changed. Even the camera crew stopped to look. Leavitt's face remained calm, but her gaze sharpened. What kind of report, Anderson? She asked, her voice still calm. According to the report, Cooper looked at the papers. President Trump's cognitive tests have shown concerning results. Memory, problems, and... He suddenly paused. What was written in the file wasn't as shocking as expected, but he continued anyway. And it indicates a decline in decision-making ability. Not a sound was heard in the studio. Even the cameramen were holding their breath. Leavitt remained silent for a few seconds, then leaned slightly forward. Anderson, I'm going to ask you something, she said, her voice low but clear. Did you read that report? Did you really read it? Or are you just saying what you were told to say? Cooper tensed up. Of course I read it. The report is right here. Did you check the date? Did you check the name of the doctor who signed it? Did you notice the contradictions inside it? Cooper had hesitated. In fact, he hadn't thoroughly examined the file before the broadcast. He had trusted Jenkins's word. Leavitt reached into her pocket and took out her own phone. I want to show you something, Anderson. Something that will save you and CNN. Cooper frowned. What do you mean? The document you're holding is fake, said Leavitt, and I can prove it. Moreover, I know how this document was created, who prepared it, and how it was leaked to CNN. Breaths were held in the studio. Cooper could hear Jenkins' panicked voice through his earpiece. "Change the subject. Move to something else immediately." But Leavitt couldn't be stopped. "There's one sentence I can say about President Trump's health, Anderson. And I advise you to listen to this sentence carefully." Cooper cleared his throat, wearing a mask of false ease on his face. "Of course, go ahead." Leavitt looked directly at the camera, as if addressing millions of viewers. "Media organizations that don't trust President Trump's health reports are trying to deceive not only the public but even their own reporters by producing fake documents behind the scenes. And Anderson, we have detailed evidence of the IP addresses, email correspondences, and even the use of artificial intelligence of that fake document in your hands being prepared 3 days ago in an office on the 14th floor of CNN headquarters." At that moment, time seemed to stand still in the studio. The color drained from Cooper's face. The voices coming from his earpiece had turned to chaos. Producers were running around in panic. Even the crew behind the camera was frozen. Cooper reflexively looked at his watch as if searching for an escape. "I think it's time for a commercial break." Leavitt quickly cut him off. "No, Anderson, it's not time to run. It's time for transparency. Here's the evidence." She held her phone up to the screen. The screen showed CNN's internal correspondence, the process of creating the fake report, and evidence of artificial intelligence use. Cooper's hands trembled. Jenkins's screams of "cut the broadcast, cut," were coming from his earpiece. But it was too late now. Millions of people were watching this moment live, and then something unprecedented in television history happened. Anderson Cooper put the file down on the table, removed his earpiece, and left the studio without saying a word. The cameras followed him in shock. CNN's star anchor was fleeing during a live broadcast. Leavitt remained seated, calmly looking at the camera. "I guess the program is over. But the truth is just beginning." The studio plunged into darkness. The broadcast was cut. But that day, not just a broadcast, but the credibility of a media empire had been cut, to be continued. Write 1 in the comments. The moment the broadcast was cut in the CNN studio, a chaotic scene began. The technical crew was frantically running back and forth, producers were shouting at each other, and cameramen were looking on in shock. Sarah Jenkins was punching the screens in the control room. Damn it! How could this happen? How could she be so prepared? Karoline Leavitt was still sitting calmly in the middle of the studio. She checked her phone. Social media had already started to explode. In just a few minutes, the hashtag #JerksCooperRanAway had started trending on Twitter. Someone had shared a video filmed from the studio, and it had already gone viral. Ms. Leavitt approached one of the studio staff, his face worried. "I think you need to leave." Leavitt nodded. "Of course. The broadcast is over after all." She stood up, adjusted her suit, and walked out of the studio with calm steps. As she walked down the corridor, even CNN employees she had never met were looking at her with respect, even a little fear. As she exited through the back door of the studio building, she saw a black SUV waiting. The driver opened the door, and Leavitt got in. "How did it go?" asked Sarah Matthews, another member of Trump's press team, from the driver's seat. Leavitt smiled. "As planned." Matthews laughed and put the car in motion. "Trump got the news. He wants to see you right away." Meanwhile, there was complete chaos at CNN headquarters. Anderson Cooper had locked himself in his personal room, changing his clothes and packing his things. There was a knock on the door. "Andy?" "It's me, Sarah." Jenkins's voice sounded worried. Cooper opened the door. His eyes were bloodshot. "I should have checked that document. What were you thinking?" Jenkins entered his room and closed the door. "Andy, calm down. How could we have known?" "The document was perfect." "Perfect." Cooper raised his voice. "Leavitt knew everything, every detail. The office on the 14th floor 3 days ago, even IP addresses. How could this happen?" Jenkins's face paled. Maybe there's someone inside." "A mole?" Cooper continued, stuffing his things into his bag. "This is much worse, Sarah. We didn't just lose our credibility. Trump and his team trapped us. They hunted us. CNN's top executives gathered for an emergency Meeting on the 15th floor. The emergency logo of CNN was still rotating on the screen. Social media was on fire. "We need to make a statement immediately," said CNN President David Colson, sitting at the head of the table. "We don't have time to lose. What are we going to say?" "Yes, we prepared fake documents. We're sorry," asked legal counsel Jessica. "Rivers, we can't admit that," objected Colson. "We'll say Anderson acted independently and cut the broadcast to check the source of the document." Rivers shook her head. "Not enough." Leavitt said the document was produced from within CNN and claimed she had evidence. "She might be bluffing," said another executive. "What if she's not?" asked Rivers. "What if they really know everything?" The meeting room fell into silence. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., in the West Wing of the White House, President Donald Trump was watching the replay of CNN's cut broadcast on a large screen in the Oval Office. Beside him were senior advisors, like John McEntee, Stephen Miller, and Dan Scavino. "Incredible," said Trump, watching Leavitt on the screen. "An absolute masterpiece. Where did you find her?" "She came from New Hampshire," said Miller. "She worked in Elise Stefanik's office. Before, we took her on her recommendation." "And when is Sarah coming?" "On her way, sir," said McEntee. "She's coming straight here after leaving CNN." Trump rubbed his hands. "Perfect. Now we move to phase 2. At that moment, on the streets of New York, the black SUV carrying Karoline Leavitt was trying to navigate through a growing crowd, following the spread of the CNN broadcast on online platforms within minutes. People were trying to stop the car, some applauding, others angrily shaking their fists. "It spread incredibly fast," said Matthews, checking her phone. "The video has already surpassed 2 million views on Twitter. Fox News has gone live. Joe Rogan is inviting you to his program. Tucker Carlson is calling." Leavitt took out her phone and displayed a white screen. A single message. "The Oval Office is waiting for you. Phase 2 is starting." That same night, thousands of miles away, in a skyscraper in San Francisco, tech CEO Miles Reynolds turned on the lights in his office and checked his computer. A number from Washington appeared on his screen. He answered the call. "Did you see it?" asked the voice on the other end. "Yes," said Reynolds. "It went exactly as we planned. Cooper fell into the trap." "What about the document? Is it really traceable?" Reynolds grinned. "We left a fake trail. The documents appear to have been produced on the 14th floor of CNN, but they were actually created by our AI. No connection leads to our system." "And Leavitt, does she really know everything?" "No," said Reynolds. "She only knows as much as we told her. She's not aware of the real operation." "Perfect," said the caller. "Be ready for phase 3. You're waiting for my signal." The next morning, when America woke up, every television channel, every newspaper, every social media platform was talking about only one topic: the Cooper escape. The incident that happened on CNN's live broadcast had now turned into not just a media scandal, but a national sensation. On Good Morning America, George Stephanopoulos frowned as he showed the tablet computer in his hand. In the last 12 hours, the hashtag #YourCooperRanAway has received more than 15 million shares. CNN still hasn't made an official statement. On Fox News, the tone was different. "The truth finally came out," said Sean Hannity, with a victorious expression on his face. CNN's fake news operation against Trump was exposed in their own studios. Karoline Leavitt proved she's not just a press secretary, but a guardian of the truth. CNN itself was in full crisis mode. Emergency meetings had been held throughout the night. Crisis management teams had been formed. At 7 in the morning, the first statement came. CNN has launched an investigation into the events that occurred during last night's broadcast. Anderson Cooper has taken a few days off due to health issues. This statement made the situation even worse. On social media, people were writing, "Cooper isn't sick, he's a fugitive," and criticizing CNN's attempted cover-up operation. At the same time, in the Oval Office of the White House, Karoline Leavitt and President Trump were having breakfast. "Did you see CNN's statement?" asked Leavitt, showing the news on her phone. Trump nodded. Classic lie. Instead of apologizing, they're digging themselves deeper. "Mr. President, what's the next step?" asked Leavitt. "Are we going to hold a press conference?" "Be patient, Karoline. said Trump, sipping his orange juice. Let them make a few more statements. Let them dig themselves even deeper. Meanwhile, in Anderson Cooper's luxury apartment in Manhattan, the phone was ringing nonstop. Cooper sat on his bed, sipping the whiskey in his hand, ignoring the incoming calls. His agent, close friends, even his family couldn't reach him. Cooper turned on the television. Every channel had images of his escape. Damn, he muttered and turned it off again. His phone rang, the screen showing CNN president. This time he answered. Yes? Andy, listen to me, said Coulson. You need to make a statement. Right now. What am I going to say? Am I going to admit that I used a fake document? No, you'll say you received the document from a source, and you cut the broadcast when you suspected its authenticity. Cooper laughed bitterly. Nobody will believe that, David. The camera recorded everything. Millions of people saw me run. Then we need to find something else, said Coulson, his voice filled with despair. CNN has to get through this crisis. Maybe it shouldn't, said Cooper. There was a resignation in his voice. Maybe people deserve the truth. That evening, a new video was released on Twitter. The video was an audio recording of a phone conversation. Sarah Jenkins's voice and an unrecognized man. In the conversation, Jenkins clearly said, "The fake document is ready. We'll give it to Cooper. We'll trap Leavitt." The video went viral within minutes. The hashtag CNN Lies replaced Honor Cooper ran away. The event, which had turned into a historic crisis in media, now gained a whole new dimension. At the White House, President Trump and his team continued to monitor the events. Karoline Leavitt had returned to her office and was checking the messages on her phone. She had gained 1 million new followers, and interview requests were pouring in. Her phone rang. It was Sarah Matthews. "Karoline, did you see the new audio recording?" "Yes," said Leavitt. "But who leaked it? It wasn't part of our operation." Matthews paused for a moment. "We're wondering about that, too. The president says he wasn't involved." Leavitt frowned. "Then who? And why?" As these questions hung in the air, thousands of miles away, in his office in San Francisco, Miles Reynolds opened a bottle of champagne and raised his glass. "The operation is right on track," he said to the person on the phone. "CNN has fallen, Cooper ran, social media is on fire, and the best part, even Trump and his team don't know what the real plan is." "Perfect," said the other party. Attacking. The media using Trump, then attacking Trump using the media, were wearing down both sides. Reynolds smiled. "When does phase 3 begin?" "Very soon," said the voice. "Now it's time to use Leavitt." 2 days later, in the White House press room in Washington, D.C., all cameras and microphones were focused on Karoline Leavitt. It was the first official press conference after the CNN incident, and the room was packed to capacity. Leavitt approached the podium with her blue suit and confident gaze. She was no longer just a press secretary, but a national figure. "Good day," she said, leaning into the microphone. "After the incident at the CNN studio, I've received many questions. Today I'll explain everything." The room fell silent. All eyes were fixed on the 27-year-old woman who had driven Anderson Cooper to flee the studio just days ago. Leavitt took a deep breath and began to speak. "There's a truth America needs to know." Leavitt took a deep breath and began to speak. "There's a truth America needs to know. What happened in the CNN studio 2 days ago wasn't just a media scandal. It was part of a systematic misinformation campaign aimed at our country." The room fell silent. Journalists held their breath, bent over their notepads, recording every word Leavitt said. "The reliable information provided to me showed that CNN was producing fake documents targeting not just President Trump, but the entire administration. However," said Leavitt after a brief pause, "evidence that has emerged in the last 48 hours shows that the situation is much more complex." Leavitt stepped out from behind the podium and continued speaking with a tablet computer in her hand. "The leaking of the audio recording from CNN was not under our control. We now understand that this incident is not just the malpractice of a media organization, but part of a broader, more sinister operation." Whispers began to rise in the press room. This was an unexpected turn. According to our White House cyber Security team's investigations, the real source of the fake documents leaked to CNN, is neither CNN nor any political organization. Leavitt raised the tablet, showing complex lines of code on the screen. The source is a San Francisco-based artificial intelligence company called Quantum Horizon. The room suddenly stirred. Journalists looked at each other in surprise, taking quick notes, sending messages to their editors. Quantum Horizon, ostensibly a neutral technology company, has been conducting complex disinformation operations targeting both media organizations like CNN and various political campaigns over the past 6 months. What are their aims? It's difficult to say definitively right now, but what we do know is that this company has connections to a certain foreign government. Leavitt returned to the podium, placed her hands on the edges, her eyes scanning everyone in the room one by one. President Trump just signed an executive order. Quantum Horizon's activities have been halted, and the FBI has launched an investigation. Most CNN employees, including Anderson Cooper, were also victims of this operation. Chaos reigned in the press room. Everyone was trying to ask questions at the same time. Leavitt restored silence with a calm hand gesture. Finally, do you remember that sentence I said during the CNN broadcast? The sentence I said about Trump that made Cooper flee the studio? All eyes were fixed on her. That sentence had been discussed on social media for days, but no one knew exactly what she had said. The broadcast had been cut, and the audio had been manipulated. Now I will reveal exactly what I said Leavitt, her eyes gleaming. I told Anderson Cooper, media organizations that don't trust President Trump's health reports are trying to deceive not only the public but even their own reporters by producing fake documents behind the scenes. And Anderson, we have detailed evidence of the IP addresses, email correspondences, and even the use of artificial intelligence of that fake document in your hands being prepared 3 days ago in an office on the 14th floor of CNN headquarters. The room fell completely silent. But, Leavitt continued, I didn't get this information from the White House. The person who provided me with this information was Miles Reynolds, the CEO of Quantum Horizon, who is now under arrest. He wanted to use me to bring down CNN and then use this scandal to harm President Trump. 2 birds with 1 stone. But he was wrong. We were always 1 step ahead. The room came alive again, journalists frantically taking notes, cameras continuously filming. Leavitt's revelations had gone beyond a national scandal, uncovering an international conspiracy. Meanwhile, in San Francisco, FBI agents were raiding Quantum Horizon's offices. Miles Reynolds had been detained, and his computers seized. Documents found in Reynolds' office revealed manipulation plans targeting not just CNN, but various media organizations and political campaigns. In New York, Anderson Cooper had finally surfaced. He was speaking in CNN's own studio, in a special interview. I was deceived, said Cooper, with a deep look of regret on his face. I used that document without fully verifying it. This is the biggest mistake of my career. What about Leavitt's revelations? Quantum Horizon and foreign government connections? Asked the reporter. Cooper sighed. We should wait for the results of the FBI investigation. But I can say this. This incident should be a wake-up call for the media. Reliable sources, verified information, impartial reporting. These are the foundations of the journalism profession. We strayed from these. The next day, the Washington Post's headline summarized the event, The Quantum Deception, How an Artificial Intelligence Company Manipulated American Media and Politics. At the White House, Leavitt sat in her office reading incoming messages. There were interview requests from Fox News, MSNBC, even the BBC. Her phone rang. It was Trump. Karoline, you're amazing, said Trump, his voice filled with pride. The whole team watched you. I've never seen such a speech. Thank you, Mr. President, said Leavitt. But this story isn't over yet. What do you mean? Trump asked. Quantum Horizon isn't the only one, said Leavitt. These are just the tip of the iceberg. There are more companies, more manipulation, and we think there's a specific government behind all of them. Which government? Leavitt paused for a moment. With your permission, I'd like to discuss this. Face to face, Mr. President. A week later, the CNN incident had become not just a media scandal, but a matter of national security. The FBI, NSA, and CIA were conducting a joint investigation, and congressional hearings were being held. Anderson Cooper had taken a 3-month leave, and CNN President David Colson had resigned. Karoline Leavitt, meanwhile, had become a national figure overnight. She was no longer just a press secretary, but referred to as the warrior of truth. Her social media followers had multiplied exponentially, and a new star had been born within the Republican Party. A month later, Trump gathered with his close team in the Oval Office. At the table were Leavitt, Miller, McEntee, and the new attorney. "General, the Quantum Horizon investigation has been completed," said the Attorney General, opening the file in his hand. "Miles Reynolds is fully cooperating. The funding behind the company came from China, as we suspected. The aim was to undermine American democracy from within, shake confidence in the media, and increase political polarization." Trump lightly banged on the table. "I've been saying this for years. No one believed me. Now they believe," said Leavitt, showing social media statistics as she opened her tablet. "The public opinion poll shows that 62% of Americans no longer trust mainstream media." "And they trust you, Karoline," said Miller, pointing to a newspaper clipping. The Washington Post's headline read, "Cooper flees, Leavitt rises, the new media." "Age," Trump grinned. "So what's the next step?" Leavitt leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. "A new media platform. We can call it Truth Network. Impartial, transparent, and most importantly, offering verifiable news. The Cooper incident gave us an opportunity. People are seeking the truth." Trump nodded. "I like it. Who will run it?" Everyone looked at Leavitt. That moment was the turning point in the 27-year-old young woman's career. 3 months later, Truth Network officially went on air. In the opening broadcast, there was Karoline Leavitt and, as a special guest, Anderson Cooper. There was a tense atmosphere in the studio. Cooper was in front of cameras for the first time in months. Leavitt was no longer just a press secretary, but the president of the new media network. "Mr. Cooper," said Leavitt, looking at the man across from her. "The last time we met, you left the studio." Cooper smiled slightly, but there was a concern in his eyes. "Yes, it was the worst moment of my life, but I'm here today because I want the truth to come out." "And what is the truth?" "The truth is," said Cooper, looking directly at the camera, "I betrayed the journalism profession. I used a document I hadn't verified. I served a political agenda, and worst of all, I disappointed my viewers." Leavitt nodded. "What about Quantum Horizon? Did you ever have any connection with them?" "No," said Cooper. "I was just a tool. But I'm not anymore. I'm here now because I believe the media needs to regain trust. And for that, we have to tell the truth. What's your reason for coming here today?" Cooper took a deep breath. "I want to join Truth Network. I want to do impartial reporting, stay away from political manipulations. If you'll accept me." A surprised expression appeared on Leavitt's face. This was an unexpected offer. "Mr. Cooper, we'll consider your offer," she said finally. "But Truth Network has only one standard: truth. Can you ensure that?" Cooper closed his eyes, then opened them. "Yes, I'll put my life on the line for it." When the broadcast ended, social media was in turmoil again. The hashtag #TrailingCooperReturned had started trending. Some were saying Cooper was begging Trump for salvation, while others were describing it as a brave revolution in media. Truth Network's first day of broadcasting reached record viewing numbers. The same day Miles Reynolds' confessions were published. His connections with the Chinese government, media manipulation techniques, and most strikingly, his secret communications with dozens of famous journalists and media executives. In the EC White House in Washington, D.C., Trump sat alone in the Oval Office, watching Truth Network's broadcast on the screen. His phone rang. "Sir, you need to see this," said Leavitt's voice. "Reynolds has given more names. Cooper is on the list." Trump frowned. "Cooper? But he wants to work with you." Trump frowned. "Cooper? But he wants to work with you." "Yes," said Leavitt. "That's why I became suspicious. When I investigated, I found emails showing Cooper had a direct connection with Quantum Horizon. The fake document was a trap, but Cooper was aware of it. He's offering to work with us to save himself." Trump took a deep breath. What are you going to do? I'll tell the truth, said Leavitt. Truth Network's first exclusive story. Anderson Cooper's betrayal. We'll publish the documents, emails, everything. You know the risk, don't you? Trump asked. Cooper still has powerful friends. I know, said Leavitt. But on a network called Truth, we can't run from the facts. Cooper fled the studio, but we won't flee from the truth. Trump smiled. You're right. Publish it. 5 years later, Karoline Leavitt was no longer just a media figure, but a rising star in American politics. Truth Network had become the country's most trusted news source, while traditional media organizations like CNN continued to lose viewers. Anderson Cooper, after a long legal process, had admitted to collaborating with Quantum Horizon, and his journalism career was over. CNN was trying to survive with new management but couldn't regain its former influence. Trump's presidency had ended, but his influence continued. Leavitt had been elected as a member of Congress from New Hampshire, and her name was mentioned among potential presidential candidates. On a spring day in Washington, D.C., Leavitt was visiting her old White House office. She stopped in the press room, looked at the podium, remembered that sentence she had said to Cooper years ago. How could one sentence, one truth, change the fate of a country? When she entered her office, the new press secretary greeted her. Congresswoman Leavitt, what an honor. It's very difficult to follow in your footsteps. Leavitt smiled. I have only one piece of advice. Always tell the truth. Truth always wins in the long run. The young press secretary nodded, her eyes gleaming with admiration. That day, when Cooper fled the studio, who could have predicted it would be the beginning of such a big change? Sometimes, said Leavitt, looking at the Washington Monument through the window, the truth is so powerful that you have to run from it. Or face it. That night on television, a retrospective documentary was broadcast. The Cooper Escape 5 years later. The program's host summarized the event. One sentence changed a country's media landscape. Media organizations that don't trust President Trump's health reports are trying to deceive not only the public but even their own reporters by producing fake documents behind the scenes. These words not only made Anderson Cooper flee the studio, but also forever changed how the American people consume news. Karoline Leavitt, sitting in her chair at the Truth Network office, was watching the documentary. A message came to her phone from Trump. You did a good job, Karoline. America thanks you. Leavitt smiled. Many things had changed since that day, but one thing remained unchanged: the power of truth. The single sentence she said in the CNN studio had not only ended a TV program, but had shaken a media empire, changed a country. Sometimes the biggest changes came from the most unexpected moments, and Anderson Cooper. According to the latest rumors, he was living a modest life under a false name in a small town. He had chosen to run instead of facing the truth. But truth would always win. As Karoline Leavitt stood on the balcony of her home, she looked at the lights of Washington. Her story was just beginning, and now, as a warrior of truth, she had much more to say. The story. Karoline Leavitt says one sentence. About Trump on CNN broadcast, Anderson Cooper flees the studio, is inspired by real events and reflects the media and political dynamics of today's America. The encounter between Karoline Leavitt and Anderson Cooper raises important questions about media credibility, political manipulation, and the power of truth in modern America. This story shows that truths can sometimes come from the most unexpected times and the most unexpected people. In today's society, in the age of social media and instant communication, a single event, a single sentence, can shake an entire institution and change society's perception. The lesson to be learned from this event is the importance of staying true to the truth, being honest and transparent. Those who choose to face the facts like Leavitt, rather than running away like Cooper, will win in the long run. Don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next story.